Hello, everyone. We are here again with another video interview series of the 13th Canadian Science Policy Conference, CSPC 2021. And we are quite pleased to have with us Nizar Ladak, the Chief Executive Officer of Digital Research Alliance of Canada. Thank you very much, Nizar, for accepting our invitation, and welcome to the conference.
Thank you, and it's exciting to be here.
So let me start off with this question that Digital Research Alliance of Canada is a new entity. And could you tell us what does it hope to accomplish?
Certainly. Our organization was assembled because we wanted to enable researchers across the country, policymakers and others, with what we consider to be the 21st century tools to enable research. Specifically, what we're referring to is the recognition that with the proliferation of data, the value of things like advanced computing, supercomputers, as many of folks would often refer to it, research data management frameworks and research software have become the tools that would enable researchers to propel Canada as a leader in the global stage of the knowledge economy. And so what researchers have told us is that the cost of many of these machines and the associated products are well beyond their individual affordability. And so as an example, Canada's largest and fastest supercomputer is located at the University of Toronto. The cost to produce that machine was $26 million in federal and provincial and institutional grants. The electricity costs alone, Mehrdad, are $250,000 a month. And so it's well beyond any individual researcher's capability. And so our organization was established to provide access to these tools so that researchers in Canada who are on the cusp of solving dementia or climate change or cancer can access by placing their research algorithms on these machines with the appropriate software and management frameworks and move us forward. And so we work collaboratively with the regions, provinces, territories, and of course, universities and researchers to determine an equitable mechanism by which they can use and access these tools.
That's very interesting. So that helped, as you said, accelerating discovery here. And could you please elaborate on this acceleration of discovery?
Absolutely. In fact, I will, the best thing to do is probably share a story, the one that will resonate with many of our listeners and viewers. When we were in the pandemic, the World Health Organization shared that typically a study would take 5 years, 6 years for a drug to be, or a cure or vaccine to be available. There were, in fact, based on the data of the early cases that emerged and the fact that it was related to SARS that we've seen in the past in terms of respiratory difficulties, there were 77,000 possible human chromosomal combinations. And so what the world's largest and fastest supercomputer located at the University of Illinois said is, give us the data. And within a matter of 4 days, they reduced those using machine learning and other aspects and artificial intelligence. They reduced those possible combinations to 70 possible combinations. And then using open science techniques, they made it available to big pharma. And they said, now working with this data set, help us accelerate a vaccine. And in fact, that's how accelerating discovery happened and how we got shots in arms in less than a year. It was rather than taking traditional methods and clinical trials, they were able to reduce the realm of possibilities very rapidly and fundamentally change mankind.
Very fascinating example, Nizar. Thank you for sharing with us. But that's really exciting. Now tell me what excites you the most about the Alliance's future.
What excites me is I've long believed a few things, which is in terms of our spend capability as a nation, it's going to be very difficult to compete with the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, many of these other countries who spend multiple millions, in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars The United States actually, under the Obama administration, spent $1 billion on a single machine to create exascale speeds. And so in order for Canada to come together and actually compete globally, I believe that it's going to be a function of bringing together all provinces and territories to work collaboratively as one team in order for us to, using a boxing analogy, punch above our weight. I think per capita, we, have tremendous talent. We have so many Nobel laureates in the world. Remember, Canada's gift to the world was insulin. And since then, we've done some remarkable things. And so I think what excites me most about the future is being able to play a small role by advancing the tools that will, make productive the innovations that our scientists across the country have to truly change how we all live as a global economy.
It's really interesting, and we look forward to see how the operation unfolds on your side and the acceleration of discovery. I want to ask you about the EDI. I know that equity, diversity, and inclusion has been referenced as a cornerstone of the Alliance approach and has been fundamental to the operations of the organization. Could you elaborate on what EDI means in the context of NDRIO and the work of the Alliance, and how you plan on following through the EDI commitment that the Alliance has made?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. I think in two fronts. On the one hand, I believe as a nation, given the recent tragedies that we've uncovered with the 215 souls discovered in Kamloops, thousands more being uncovered in unmarked graves, I believe we have an obligation as a nation to elevate our relationship with Indigenous populations if we sincerely believe in truth and reconciliation. And I don't think that that focuses on any one individual area. I think it's our collective obligation to elevate our relationships and our opportunities. And so as a nation, I think, enabling Indigenous researchers, regardless of their subject matter discipline, in ways that have systematically, as a society, perhaps eliminated those opportunities for them, is something that I think we look forward to. I think the other, and in a couple of weeks, I've been told that a paper I've written will be published in Policy Options. And in that paper, I would encourage our viewers to read it, because I make a particular point about how EDI represents an opportunity for us as an ecosystem. And the story I share in that is that when I've had the privilege to speak to international audiences, I'm often told that the adoption rate for our products and services is very high in other nations. And of course, that captured my attention. I say, well, tell me why. And what they share with us is that the ability for Canadian products to be adopted into rapid use and implementation in foreign nations is very, very high. And so then I began to reflect and wondered why this would be the case. And why it's the case is that, in fact, it speaks to the very fabric of who we are as Canadians. The likelihood that software or hardware products or programming has been constructed by a team with a variety of different ethnic backgrounds, whether you have a French person or a person with a Spanish person or a member of any other particular ethnicity, come together and produce the product. And therefore, the programming language or the way in which we intuitively interact with that particular technology product speaks to our lived experiences as ethnic individuals from a variety of different backgrounds. And so the adoption rate when we begin to export to Spain and to France and to other countries is that much harder or higher because those individuals intuitively share that same lived experience. And so the argument I make in my paper is that I think we have an opportunity not only to take advantage of the niche that is truly Canadian, but also expanding that in terms of opportunities to embrace the LGBTQ and to LGBTQ2 and other populations, gender disbalances that exist in our ecosystem, and encourage those individuals to adopt the STEM professions. And I think while Canada has a long way to go, I think the tolerance that we hope to aspire to could create not only economic benefits, but actually propel Canada in ways that economically would be extraordinarily attractive. So for me, I think EDI is not only the moral imperative of our organization, I think there's a business case to be made in proliferating those experiences.
So I know, Nizar, that the Alliance also hosting a panel at this year's conference. Could you tell us more about that?
Certainly, we'd be very happy. In fact, we're quite excited about our panel. It's called Fighting Climate Change in the Era of Big Data, and it's on November 23rd, 2021. And why we're particularly excited about this is the caliber of panelists that we've been able to attract, some of the brightest minds in this specific area. And I know that you'll be sharing that in your program. But what struck us is a bit of an interesting paradigm. We recognized that data centers, which is obviously core to the work that we do, are now one of the world's largest carbon emitters. In fact, we just last year, as globally, data centers have surpassed the aviation industry in terms of our carbon footprint. And so recognizing this valuable tool, but also the potential harm that we're creating for our environment, has forced the Alliance to begin to think about ways and means by which we can consider our global citizenry and our social responsibility in making sure that we're respectful of our environmental and climate contributions. So things like reusing, you can come to this panel and hear from thought leaders about the effects that we're having on climate change, but even hearing about really innovative things that are happening in Canada. Laval University has one of the largest data centers in the country. And the amount of heat that is generated from all of those computers in that room, they actually repurpose, and they're heating their swimming pool, they're heating their cafeteria, and they're heating their gymnasium, thereby reducing their energy consumption while benefiting from the particular data center. So it's these kinds of innovative things that you'll hear by participating in our session.
Pleased to have your session, and I know you have other speaking engagement, which is great, and look forward to all of those. I encourage our viewers to make sure that catch that panel session. The Alliance has now a strategic plan, and I must say impressive and ambitious one. I'm going to ask you what you see as the biggest challenge or challenges of implementing that strategic plan.
My answer will probably surprise a number of our viewers. I actually think that the technology changes are going to be viable and possible. The biggest challenge we face is a cultural one. I think by virtue of our historical legacy, we have not come together as a nation as one team with one voice. And it's the digital alliances, hence the very thoughtful way in which we created our name. Our ambition is to bring together provinces, territories, research institutes, and universities and post-secondary organizations, colleges, and others in a way that we're all collectively moving in the same direction. And I would say that that's particularly difficult for academic audiences. And why I would share that is it's embedded in the nature of academia in many respects. So, you graduate from high school and you compete with your classmates to get the best grades to get into the best university. When you get into university, you compete to get into the best graduate schools. When you finally get into the graduate schools, you compete in the publish or perish paradigm. And you're competing and in fact having to subject your thoughts to peer scrutiny. Even on a university campus or a college campus where you believe you're working as a single institution, you're competing for limited resources to be able to acquire the limited research dollars we have to propel your ideas forward. And so in many ways, competition, which is not a bad thing, please don't get me wrong, but competition has been embedded in almost 100 years of academic thought and academic experience. And now the Digital Alliance is coming through and saying, let's all collaborate and let's all work together. And so I think why I'm also hopeful, while I would consider that to be our big challenge, I think it's picking up on broader trends like open science and another area called convergence science. When I attended the CPSC before the pandemic, so that would have been around 2019-20, I attended a talk where one of your speakers was talking about the fact that integrated thinking in terms of disciplines were in fact creating the opportunities for new discoveries, where we bring a biologist, a chemist, someone in human behavior, someone from the engineering community to solve the world's most wicked and complex problems. And so I think academia itself is embarking upon a change where it's not one scientific framework or research framework. It's the combination of all of the disciplinary frameworks that's probably going to propel us. And we want to jump on that, and we want to be able to capitalize on it to say, how can we produce tool sets and frameworks that allow for interdisciplinary collaboration and moving us forward? And so I hope that our strategic plan gives some structure to be able to enable that.
This is very interesting, Nizar, and so we'll come back to you in a year or so to discuss that in another interview with you. Thank you. That's great. So my last question is about the engagement with CSPC. The Alliance is now a program member of the CSPC, and we are so pleased and proud of having your engagement in our activities, and thank you for the support. And so I want to know what you see as the biggest benefit and value of engagement with CSPC.
Absolutely, and that one's very easy for me to answer. It's the fact that regardless of discipline, regardless of orientation, whether you're a policy person, a researcher, a research leader, an administrative leader, a business leader, and an individual from the private sector, what the CPSC has always meant to me, and why I've attended every single one faithfully for almost the past several years, is because I can come to that environment and open my mind in ways that I had not thought possible through previous conferences. I'll go to supercomputing in Germany, or I'll go to supercomputing, here. In my healthcare background, I used to go to the United States and attend quality conferences. But what CPSC allows me to do is enter an environment, catch up with some old friends and trusted colleagues, but open my mind to thoughts and perspectives and trends that I always find this golden nugget or common thread to be able to take back with me, and in terms of the practices in my day-to-day environments. And there's often this very purposeful manner in terms of knowledge exchange and cementing our sort of learning community in many ways. And so I'll come with 50 business cards, always run out because I'm handing them to so many people I want to get to know, and I'll come home with over 100 because it's a platform for us to collaborate and come together. And so many ways it speaks to our own ambition. If we could model and bottle the CPSC formula, I think we'll be talking about fundamental changes to our ecosystem. So I come to learn and I come to enjoy.
Thank you very much for those beautiful comments. I appreciate that support. And CSPC, in fact, is a rich environment because of the presence and support of organizations and individuals such as yourself, Nizar. Thank you very much for being with us for so many years. I appreciate that, and very much looking forward to having you in the future. And this brings us to the end of the interview. I want to thank everyone for watching this and look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Indeed, I look forward to it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.